Read chapter 5 and 6 today. So I am going to let you listen to um, I'm going to let you listen to chapter 5, and then I'm going to have you go and read on your own chapter 6. So without further ado, I will get to that. All right, let me open up my Epic. Oops. All right, chapter 6 and 7, not chapter 5 and 6. Chapter 6 is going to be read to you, and chapter 7 you're going to read on your own, and then I'm going to give you some questions. Okay.
Bibi was a girl with short brown hair, a little Bibi nose, totally tiny toes, and big brown eyes. Her full name was Bibi Gunn. She was the fastest draw in Mrs. Jules's class. She could draw a cat in less than 45 seconds, a dog in less than 30, and a flower in less than 8 seconds. But of course, Bibi never drew just one dog or one cat or one flower. Art was from 12:30 to 1:30. Why, in that time, she could draw 50 cats, 100 flowers, 20 dogs, and several eggs or watermelons. It took her the same amount of time to draw a watermelon as an egg. Calvin sat next to Bibi. He didn't think he was very good at art. Why, it took him the whole period just to draw one airplane. So instead, he just helped Bibi. He was Bibi's assistant. As soon as Bibi would finish one masterpiece, Calvin would take it from her and set down a clean sheet of paper. Whenever her crayon ran low, Calvin was ready with a new crayon. That way, Bibi didn't have to waste any time. And in return, Bibi would draw 5 or 6 airplanes for Calvin. It was 12:30, time for art. Bibi was ready. On her desk was a sheet of yellow construction paper. In her hand was a green crayon. Calvin was ready. He held a stack of paper and a box of crayons. "Ready, Bibi?" said Calvin. "Ready, Calvin," said Bibi. "Okay," said Mrs. Jules. "Time for art." She had hardly finished her sentence when Bibi had already drawn a picture of a leaf. Calvin took it from her and put another piece of paper down. "Red," called Bibi. Calvin handed Bibi a red crayon. "Blue," called Bibi. He gave her a blue crayon. They were quite a pair. Their teamwork was remarkable. Bibi drew pictures as fast as Calvin could pick up the old paper and set down the new. A fish, an apple, 3 cherries, bing, bing, bing. At 1:30, Mrs. Jules announced, "Okay, class, art is over." Bibi dropped her crayon and fell over on her desk. Calvin sighed and leaned back in his chair. He could hardly move. They had broken their old record. Bibi had drawn 378 pictures. They lay in a pile on Calvin's desk. Mrs. Jules walked by. "Calvin, did you draw all these pictures?" Calvin laughed. "No, I can't draw. Bibi drew them all." "Well, then, what did you draw?" asked Mrs. Jules. "I didn't draw anything," said Calvin. "Why not? Don't you like art?" asked Mrs. Jules. "I love art," said Calvin. "That's why I didn't draw anything." Mrs. Jules did not understand. "It would have taken me the whole period just to draw one picture," said Calvin. "And Bibi would only have been able to draw 100 pictures. But with the two of us working together, she was able to draw 378 pictures. That's a lot more art." Bibi and Calvin shook hands. "No," said Mrs. Jules, "that isn't how you measure art. It isn't how many pictures you have, but how good the pictures are. Why, a person could spend his whole life just drawing one picture of a cat. In that time, I'm sure Bibi could draw 1,000,000 cats." 2,000,000, said Bibi. Mrs. Jules continued, "But if that one picture is better than each of Bibi's 2,000,000, then that person has produced more art than Bibi." Bibi looked as if she was going to cry. She picked up all the pictures from Calvin's desk and threw them in the garbage. Then she ran from the room. "I thought her pictures were good," said Calvin. He reached into the garbage pail and took out a crumpled-up picture of an airplane. Bibi walked outside into the playground. Louis, the yard teacher, spotted her. "Where are you going?" he asked. "I'm going home to draw a picture of a cat," said Bibi. "Will you bring it to school and show it to me tomorrow?" Louis asked. "Tomorrow?" laughed Bibi. "By tomorrow, I doubt if I'll even be finished with one whisker."
Okay, that's the end of chapter 6. Kind of a funny chapter. Obviously, Bibi took what what Mrs. Jewell said to heart. You don't really need to spend your whole life drawing a cat. But she was just trying to make a point. So, and I'm sure some of you third graders understand that. All right, let's go back. Chapter 7, I want you to read on your own on Epic. This chapter is called Calvin. It's not super long, so it shouldn't take you very long to read this chapter. But you're gonna read 7 on your own. Remember that when you are reading, you just listen to an expert reader or professional reader. So, what are some of the things that he did to make it seem interesting and keep your interest when he was reading? Okay, think about that when you're listening to when you listen to chapter 6. What did he do that was done well, and how he read? Okay, all right. So I'm gonna pull up the questions. Some of these obviously we're not gonna get because we didn't read chapter 7. But here we go. Question 1: describe Bibi. What is her full name? Question 2: what was Bibi really fast at doing? Question 3: what record did Bibi break with Calvin's help? Chapter 4: why did Bibi get upset and run out of the room crying? Question 5: Mrs. Jewell asked Calvin to take a note to blank on the blank floor. Why was this a problem? Okay, there's only 5 questions there. That shouldn't be too terribly difficult. You have until Thursday. I'm going to upload chapters 8 and 9. So, you have until Thursday to do it if you choose to do it. But that is it for today. All right. Goodbye.